There are only two revolutionary bigs in the NBA. One is an alien, and the other is a joker. One is being handled with such special treatment it's a little confusing. The other, well, he deserves it. The San Antonio Spurs are doing something the NBA almost never allows itself to do. They are telling a generational talent to slow down.
We just have to, as a staff, and particularly me managing the game at times, keep him from himself and continue to growing in the area of minutes or workload, but there's nothing that we're willing to risk long-term or big picture with that guy.
Why though? Is it working? And more importantly, will it work if the Nuggets did the same with Nikola Jokic? Let's break all this down. The NBA has a long history of asking its stars to carry weight the moment they prove that they're capable. LeBron James carried that burden in Cleveland even before he was drafted. Luka Jokic did the same in Dallas, and the same was expected of Zion Williamson too, and many more stars on that level. Currently, we are seeing how the Spurs are handling Wembanyama differently. His minutes are capped, and his role shifts based on physical readiness. Like, who does that for such a generational talent? Sometimes he's removed from the starting lineup, not because he lacks impact, but because impact is not the priority yet. You see, San Antonio is developing a superstar the way engineers reinforce a foundation, not the way promoters sell a spectacle. But so far, the reverse seems to be the case with Nikola Jokic in Denver. Every minute he plays quietly taxes a body built to think faster than it moves. This has led to statements like this, even from Nuggets fans.
And that has been a luxury. That is a luxury to have Nikola Jokic available as much as we've had him available. This Nuggets team needs to figure out how to win without him, period. Because again, it is not realistic to assume that Nikola Jokic can play 40 minutes of basketball almost every game for an 82-game season. It's not realistic.
This is why the recent knee hyperextension landed differently. The injury itself was not catastrophic, but the moment was. What initially carried the fear of an ACL tear became a reminder of how thin the line is between continuity and absence. Jokic returned on January 30th already looking like himself, scoring efficiently and controlling the game in limited minutes. But the injury raised the question of how the Nuggets are using their joker, and maybe it was time to try and replicate what the Spurs are doing with theirs.
Having Jokic on your team is such a blessing. I mean, you can change players coming in, new players coming in. You can have a new coach, new season, year to year to year. Jokic just remains a constant.
Jokic's level of constance has the Nuggets working him like a horse. But thankfully, his hyperextension injury offered Denver an opportunity to rethink how they're using their joker. You see, the Spurs did not protect Victor Wembanyama by reacting to problems. They did it by removing temptation, and Denver should consider doing the same. This special treatment should begin with reduced minutes for Jokic. Not because he cannot play 35 a night, but because he does not need to. Reducing his workload into the high 20s on certain nights would concentrate his impact rather than dilute it. And before you say, oh, but the Nuggets can't survive without him, his hyperextension injury already showed us that they can. In the previous years from 2021 to 2025, the Nuggets suffered without the Joker, going 13-23, making legends like Carmelo Anthony say this.
When Joker is in there, we playing chess. When he's not in there, we playing checkers.
I think it's more freedom. I think it's more freedom for them guys now.
Yeah, they be all right.
Because now we ain't got to worry. Now we got to shoot.
But that's
like
the problem.
You got it. No, it's
freedom
not.
is a problem because these guys are going to be out of their body.
No, it's not.
They're going to be playing too much freedom. Think about Tim Hardaway Jr. with too much freedom.
But this season, they went 10-6 without Jokic. So it's clear that their trades paid off and they don't really need him out there like before. So what will this special treatment look like in Denver? Well, like the Spurs, the Nuggets will need to treat Nikola's schedule like an adversary rather than an obligation. Back-to-backs would no longer be expected, and they would always be evaluated through the lens of recovery, movement quality, and long-term rhythm. The Spurs have normalized this with Wembanyama by framing availability as a season-long resource rather than a nightly guarantee. Denver has already been forced to do this, so why not continue? Why not try to have Nikola Jokic briefly anchor the second unit sometimes? Doing that will reduce the physical toll that comes from battling centers for extended runs, while still allowing his mind to dictate the game. But you know, Jokic is probably not supposed to be handled like this. After all, superstars are meant to dominate visibly, nightly, and relentlessly. However, Jokic is a different kind of superstar. Therefore, he deserves a different treatment. So, let's get into how this could work.
I mean, Joker's a basketball genius, you know? I mean, he's just a genius and happens to play basketball, you know? So he makes the game very easy. And when you think the game like that, the game unlocks, you know, you can start seeing plays ahead.
Jokic is not just Denver's best player. He's the system itself. And it's time for Denver to start looking ahead. At 6'11" and nearly 300 pounds, he is asked to initiate offense, absorb contact, orchestrate movement, and lead the team to victory. Now, while his durability has been extraordinary, the fact remains that durability is not immunity, and the history of the NBA is littered with examples of this. Yao Ming did not break down because he lacked skill. Bill Walton did not lose his prime because he lacked conditioning. Their bodies simply absorbed more than they could sustainably return, and Jokic is not exempt from this. Now, we all know that Jokic will never chase preservation on his own. His competitiveness is quiet but absolute. If the game is close, he will stay. If the team needs control, he will provide it. That is precisely why the responsibility shifts to the organization. Great players rarely know when to stop giving, and it's up to the organization to step in, like the Spurs did.
You know, what is the priority of all that? It's not, I do know his long-term health, you know, making sure we keep that kid from himself in terms of his competitiveness, and we want him to be healthy for years, not for trying to win the next couple games or whatever it may be.
Treating Jokic this way is not favoritism. It's an acknowledgement, a recognition that his value is not measured by how often he plays, but by how long and in what shape. But what's so interesting about this conversation is that Denver already has proof this idea does not weaken them. In fact, it may sharpen them. When Jokic missed time after that knee hyperextension, the Nuggets did not collapse into disorder. They simplified. They moved the ball earlier. Defensive responsibilities became more collective. Players who often orbit Jokic were forced to assert themselves without waiting for direction. That stretch revealed something important. Jokic's greatness does not disappear when he plays fewer minutes. It concentrates. Upon his return, the efficiency told the story more clearly than the box score. He controlled games without dominating time. He scored decisively without volume. His presence felt surgical rather than consuming, which is exactly what preservation is supposed to produce. Less exposure did not dull his impact, it refined it. This is where the idea begins to feel uncomfortable again. Fewer minutes and fewer games inevitably mean fewer historic nights. Jokic's career has been defined by statistical absurdity that can happen almost every night. Now, those moments matter to fans just as they matter to history and how greatness is remembered. But let's be honest, Jokic's dominance of finesse seems too easy and already has people taking him for granted, like Chuck said.
Man, what the Joker's doing, you know, the one thing about sports is we just taking this dude for granted, man.
The fans may not like this idea because a superstar treated like a long-term asset risked being perceived as distant rather than dominant. These are real trade-offs, and dismissing them would weaken the argument. But the evidence suggests something else matters more. and Charles Barkley already reminded them of the responsibility that comes with having a joker.
If you got a guy that great, you got to win some more, because he got another 5 years. Because when he gets older, his game gonna still be fine, because he's not the most athletic brother in the world.
The fact is, Denver wins when Jokic is fresh and his body is not compensating for months of invisible strain. This is true for San Antonio, and that's why they came up with this new way of handling such a superstar like they do for Wembanyama. It's time for Denver to stop wasting Nikola Jokic. A special treatment like this for Nikola Jokic will feel strange because the league has trained everyone to believe that superstars must always be present to be legitimate. However, history has shown that the rarest players are not defined by how often they appear, but by how long they remain decisive. With Wemby, the Spurs chose patience for potential. Denver now has the chance to choose patience for certainty. So do you think the Nuggets should try this with Jokic? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to understand why players across the league respond to Jokic differently, then watch how NBA players really feel about Nikola Jokic next.